I just know, like I said earlier, how sports developed me as a leader, really just as a human. And I know the benefits of that. I don't want that to go away. And so if we can help schools to raise money so that they can keep some of the programs that they have, then that's just a huge win.
Produced by Podcast Architects.
Welcome back to another episode of The Path Forward. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Rick Fernandez. We're coming to you at the very end of summer, getting ready for a new school year. So with new school years, new excitement, but also some new variables. I have a very special guest, the owner, founder of PracticePlan, John Brochu. And John, I can call you a friend now. I mean, we've had enough interaction where it's okay if I call you a friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And I want to give the audience a little bit of understanding of why I asked you to join me. As you well know, John, and as all of our educators know, the budget crunch in Texas for school districts is hitting pretty hard right now. And school districts are scrambling, trying to pass deficit budgets. And so, when you and I connected about a year ago, I immediately was excited about your solution, about PracticePlan and what you're doing for schools. And I wanted to have you on selfishly to not only talk about what you're doing in the realm of sports facilities and rentals and how you're automating that, but also because this is a direct line for if a school district is needing something that's easy to do, doesn't cost them anything, and can really have a great ROI. Well, I'd like to provide them with that information. So, welcome to the show, John. Would you go ahead and just introduce PracticePlan and a little bit what it is and how you got into it?
Yeah, so PracticePlan is a platform, and it's a platform where school districts can list their facilities that they want to rent, their gyms, their courts, their fields, even classrooms, auditoriums, really any space that they can rent. And it just allows them to do that in a way that's efficient and gives them exposure to where the community can see that it's available. And it also reduces the administrative time that it takes to do that. And so we are a VRBO, Airbnb, Golf Now type of platform for school districts. And they implement our platform without any cost. And so the way that we make money is that the consumer, the participant, the club teams, et cetera, they're the ones who pay convenience fees when they use the platform. And it truly is convenient for them. They can see everything that they want to rent in one place. They can shop, they can see prices, they can see available times, they can book right then, pay right then, get confirmation right then, and just show up to play or practice or have a meeting or whatever it is their activity is.
And so when I think about facilities, I think about, obviously our high schools and our sports fields and the gymnasiums, but are elementaries using it too? Because there's a lot of space available. The great district of Cy-Fair where my kids go to school, it's a huge district. There's a lot of schools and a lot of space and possibly a lot of opportunity there. Are you seeing schools utilize more than just fields through PracticePlan?
Absolutely. We're seeing more and more classrooms, cafeterias, auditoriums, a lot of gyms. I mean, the elementary school gyms are typically a little bit smaller for those recreational teams. They're great for, half court practices. Even big AAU clubs will use an elementary gym and have, two different practices on each half court. So yeah, it's really popular. Even the grass fields that are used for soccer, or if, middle schools that have tracks, they're being rented by private schools who may not have a track or may not have a gym at all.
Are you seeing a little bit of the change? And what I mean by that is, typically your school district's very protective, and rightfully so, of their fields and their facilities. And it's kind of been a hands-off except for certain things. Now I feel like school districts don't really have a choice. They're having to open up for either the community use because they're want to be included in the ability to rent those facilities, or it's just a matter of dollars and cents. Like we have to find a way to make a little bit more revenue. Are you seeing it loosen up a little bit across the country? I feel like it definitely is here in Texas.
Yeah, for sure. As you know, here in Texas, everybody's waiting with bated breath to see what the legislation does in January and allocations of funds. And while people are optimistic, I'm not sure anybody's really hopeful that the situation is going to get a whole lot better. So there's a bit of a conflict going on in the schools in that the school boards are saying, yes, we need some more revenue, so this is a good thing. And then the school administrators who are operating the schools are saying, well, okay, it takes staff and it's a hassle for me to rent these places out. And then we have maintenance on top of that and all of those things. And so there's definitely a lot of discussion about it, definitely a lot of consternation as to whether they should actually rent out and have more outsiders on their property. And many of them know it is good for the community. The tax dollars that the community members know that they've spent, or the bond money that's been raised to build these nice facilities, and they want to use them. And so you have that side of it, and then I understand the school side of it as well, that well, we have to maintain them and we have to have people there to unlock the doors or the fences or whatever it is, and that creates a cost for us to some degree. Although the schools that have been successful on our platform have seen that the revenue that comes in more than compensates for the maintenance, as well as the opportunity to give some of the teachers, coaches, custodians to make a little extra money if that's what they have um, available in terms of time to go and be that person who is the on-site supervisor, or who is the person that unlocks the doors. So there's
Can you get
some benefits in there. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no doubt. I was. You start talking about money, so my ears perked up. Can you give us an idea? Give me a ballpark and you don't have to say the client's name, but a district that you worked with in their prior revenue versus when they started using Practice Plan.
Yeah, so the very first district we put on did about 150 to 180,000 in rental revenue. After 9 months, they were up 60%. After 12 months, they will have doubled that revenue using the same personnel, obviously same facilities, nothing built. And a lot of that is because they have gained exposure through our platform to national organizations that want to rent their spaces. And so they'll come in and they'll reserve many nights or even months worth of nights of practices or weekends, or maybe it's whole tournaments. Some of these big national organizations, they want to secure tournaments well in advance, and they need 3 turf fields for 7-on-7, or they need, 6 gyms for an AAU tournament. And so they can go on our platform and they can accomplish and see what's out there.
Okay, so the John, I got to ask you this because the first thing that I know comes up, right? Liability, who's responsible? What if something breaks? What if something is missing or property's damaged? How does all that work, and how are school districts navigating that piece of it?
Yeah, so they have to be careful about who they rent to, and the way that we accomplish that on our platform is that there's an approval process where they have the ability to see uploaded rosters, uploaded liability insurance, make sure that coverage is there, signing all the waivers, all the documents online when they check out. It's a really simple checkout process, but it covers the school district for all the things that they need to make sure that they don't get left holding the bag if something does break or somebody does get hurt. That's really on the club or the person who has the coverage in order to rent in the first place. And so the nice thing about our platform is that they have all that with one click. They can see it all and they know, and then they can approve or not approve that renter, and they can let them know why, and then they can either obtain the documents they need or they can go somewhere else.
So the school district can customize kind of the thresholds of the minimum requirements to rent in any way that they want to, whether that be the insurance, the proof of insurance, or the minimum amount of people in a gym for fire code, all of those different things.
That's right. And the school districts vary on what they charge for certain things. And so they can add charges for bigger events. They can add security charges. They can add charges for setting up tables and chairs, or, pulling out the stadium, in the gyms where the stands pull out, things like that, or setting up volleyball nets, or pushing soccer goals onto a football field. And if they have to have somebody there to do that, then they build that payroll into the fee. So there are ways for the school to not only cover their liability, but also to cover all their costs and then some, so that they are generating positive revenue.
Could they use parking lots? Are you seeing any of the parking lots for events that may not be housed at the school but near a campus, particularly with some of your inner cities where there's a lot of activities going on during the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, they could certainly do, the camp gladiators and the boot camps and the 5:30 a.m. workout groups that use parking lots, or for band practices, or, things that require big open hard spaces. They certainly can. Anything that they can rent, they can list on our platform. It's not limited. They can put all the details and give all the instructions that they want. So yeah, we're seeing a lot of unique things. We're seeing dorms actually for in some of the private facilities where players stay or where coaches stay, and they can rent those dorms and things like that. It's really not limited to gyms and fields.
Could you, if you were a school district in a entrepreneurial mindset, could you use it like on the conference circuit? If you were a district that likes to host conferences, or you have a couple a year that are big revenue generators, could you do that more frequently using the platform? Because now my mind is going a million miles an hour as I start thinking about all the applications.
Well, I mean, you can certainly rent out your space. As far as registration and things like that, our platform's not really geared for individual registration. So for things like that, it would be more in terms of renting. If another conference wanted to rent our school, our say um, our theater arts, or activity center, because they want to host a conference there, then it works well for that, for sure.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, the registration is always a bit of a challenge, but just securing the location would be a huge relief, because obviously, like you said, you're trying to do that, at least a year out, most of the time, 2, 3 years. Just like some of our state conferences for educators, all of those venues are booked up well in advance. So I'd like to see some districts start hosting their own stuff. That would be a great opportunity for them to draw in some revenue, and not necessarily have to pass it off to a hotel or a convention center. Put that money right back into the district coffers. What's the one or two most creative ways you've seen districts monetize using your platform?
Well, one district has a semi-pro soccer team that rents, I think, made 30 reservations at a time, because there were open turf fields that they could use. And that school district's, because that's an adult league, they only let them use that at night when there's not children on campus, of course. Um, we've seen actually a lot of different uses, from Boy Scouts meeting to churches meeting on Sundays in their auditoriums. I mentioned earlier the private schools, a lot of private schools that don't have facilities rent the public schools facilities, and they rent those for a season. So, well, I guess that's not really unique, but it is something that needs to be considered, because they really struggle. The private schools that don't have facilities really struggle putting teams together and finding places where they can work out. And so they really need that. And a lot of the public schools that we've seen who accommodate those private schools and others, they give them great discounts. They can use promotion codes to discount the rates so that they're affordable for, schools and churches that don't. have a ton of money to rent them, and then they can charge full boat to those uh, club teams who are generating a ton of revenue, from all the kids and coaches that they have. So
Yeah, no, I mean, there's anybody that tells you that there's not money in club or AAU is probably not being genuine.
right, I mean, you've been in it. I've been in the club world a long time as a coach and as a parent, and have paid the fees and have collected the fees, and they definitely generate a lot of money, and so much so that it's sort of the genesis for this idea for this platform is that these private clubs are out building their own facilities. And why would they be out building their own facilities when the high schools are right there to be able to use? But high schools and elementaries and middle schools, they've been hesitant to rent their stuff out. But now, as you mentioned earlier, with the school finance climate, they're figuring out that we need to generate additional revenue, and we can use that additional revenue really any way we want to hire more teachers, to supplement programs, et cetera. And so they're willing to do it more now. And now that they have a little bit of an easier way to do it, I mean, their big stumbling block has been the efficiency of their process. And as we go into these schools and we see how they do it, we understand that, and we see that they have a team of people that handle their rental process, and they don't need a team of people. I mean, they need somebody to manage it for sure. And that person sometimes is very resistant to change, and that person may think their job is threatened if our platform is being used, but really they still need to manage the process. They can probably do twice as much or three times as much in terms of rental volume as they're doing now with the same person. And because it takes away the paper.
Yeah, it's making their job easier, making their life easier.
Absolutely. I mean, all the phone calls, the paper, the forms, the deposits, the refunds, all the things that just take time from whoever's doing it to have to spend during the day. They could just minimize that and do an even better job managing schedules and just managing facilities and making sure that they're all being utilized. And so then, therefore, that revenue is coming in on a regular basis. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, not $10,000. So, I mean, a typical high school tree in Texas, a high school tree being, a high school, couple of middle schools, and a handful of elementary schools. I mean, those can generate $100,000 to $300,000 each in rentals if they do it properly and they manage it well. And that's what we can help them do
You said each. You said each.
each.
If they do it right. Okay. Okay. So that's a lot of money. Give me a implementation timeline, because me being a part of the Power School team, we're always looking at implementation timelines and making sure we're fast and efficient. For you, what's that look like? Let's just take your typical, like you said, your high school tree, a district of mid-size, relative size that you've been working with. Give us your implementation.
Yeah, so we have districts of all size. We're onboarding a district right now that's 48 schools, and that is about a 3-week process. For a district that we just met with one yesterday, that's 2 high schools, we can onboard them in a day. However, we tell them 2 weeks because it's it, it is a direct result of how quickly they get information to us. And so it's not a lot of information. It's just, what are you going to rent, and when are your assets going to be available? And then there's some integration, and we integrate with Google and Outlook and calendars, and so we make sure that we get that integration with their calendar, which doesn't take any time at all. So it's a matter of days on our end. It's really a matter of gathering information from them, and then we go out and take pictures, or they send us pictures if they have good ones, and we get all that done relatively quickly. So the onboarding process is very short.
And I'm assuming that you're helping some of your folks co-market, right? So when they put their school on the website, or they start to advertise to the community, really local and probably statewide. Do you help them with that? What's y'all's role in getting the word out that the school is really taking a step to try to provide more opportunity for the community?
Yeah, so we do some social media posts that they're on our platform now. We also send out internal marketing emails to platform users that, hey, this facility or this district is just joined our platform. Go check them out. We also get, I mentioned earlier, the national organizations that call us and say, hey, we need a place to do an event. Where do we do it? We call around to those districts and say, this is available. We had a professional women's football game that needed a place, and we called around to all the people on our platform to see where they could play. Things like that. So I mean, there are things that we can do to help them as long as they want more renters that are outside the community. But we also um, do the social media and marketing so that they, at least people in their community, know. And then they have typically a school district will have us on their site. So when you click on facility rentals, it'll page, and then you can find whatever it is you want to rent for that school.
Yeah, man, that would be a huge help. I'm looking at it from the other side of the coin as a AAU dad, right? So I've been to Dallas 3 times this summer, San Antonio 3 times, Austin, New Orleans, and always waiting to the last minute to figure out what the venue is actually going to be and where you're going to be playing. What a great opportunity to get ahead of that if I'm the Nike EYLB tournament, right? They're playing all over the country all of the time, and trying to find the venues I know can be challenging, and that's lots of money going through those tournaments. I mean, it's $20 just to get in and watch a 2-day tournament, which is I was floored by the cost of just a parent going to those tournaments, but the revenue that can be generated from a school district is substantial. I'll just say that it's almost the school district like, man, we can just do this full time and make a lot of money for our facilities and our rentals, and have all the great equipment we ever could want. So definitely a huge need on both sides of the coin there, from what I can tell. Um, I do want a little bit you to dive in of your why do this, right? I mean, just out of the goodness of your heart, or like, how did you even think about this, and why is it a passion of yours?
Yeah, well, I mean, sports have been a passion of mine for my whole life. And so I think I mentioned to you earlier that, without sports, I probably wouldn't have gone to college. And, playing sports got me there. Went through grad school and became an entrepreneur. And I just have that competitive entrepreneurial spirit. I was also blessed to have 3 girls who were athletic, and I got to coach them and watch them play up through college. And so, yeah, it is a passion of mine, building things and helping solve problems, and being that dad and that coach of 20 plus years. I've seen the difficulty in trying to schedule places for practices and games and tournaments. And having my own facility, I also see the pain of trying to manage people wanting to use your facility. And so I certainly understand how difficult it is. And so when this idea came to me and we began building this platform, we just went out and audited all these places, which is in my background, is process auditing. And we just went out and said, how do we solve this problem for you to make it easier? And I really feel like we've done a good job. We don't sit in many meetings with school districts where they say, well, we want it to do this, and it doesn't. And so we're constantly growing and changing with the needs of people. But I feel like we're at a place right now where our product is really helping school districts, and that feels really good. And it's just right in the wheelhouse of what I know.
So let me recap. It's just to make sure I got this right. So it's faster and more efficient than probably our normal processes. You're at least 50%, 60% increasing revenue of the rentals just based on your current clients. you can provide another avenue for staff members to make money, right? Which we know there's a teacher shortage, and districts are looking for ways to creatively incentivize keeping staff and attracting staff. So that's a big bonus. And you have total control. You set the parameters as the school district. You have total access of when things are available, when they're not. And I really just feel like, man, what a great win for schools altogether. I think that's hard pressed to find something right now that you can implement that is that impactful. And I'm not saying that because you paid me anything. I'm saying we're looking for wins as school districts are moving forward and trying to figure out what's going to happen with our budget. Everybody's looking for wins. And so that is the main reason I wanted to have you on the show, because I believe that you can provide them one and do it quickly and efficiently and with no cost and with little implementation. So, man, I am super excited for you guys and more excited for schools to be able to leverage. And then at some point we'll be thrilled when nationally we have all these AAU venues that we can go practice at and play at and not have to sweat it out to the last 24 hours before a tournament starts.
Yeah, I mean, the last thing I ever want to see is districts to have to cut programs and cut athletics. And I know there's been a lot of talk about that with the current finance situation. And so I just know, like I said earlier, how sports developed me as a leader, really just as a human. And I know the benefits of that. And so I don't want that to go away. And so if we can help schools to raise money so that they can keep some of the programs that they have, then that's like you said, that's just a huge win.
How do they get in contact with you? Where do they go if a school district superintendent or an athletic director, anyone wants to get in contact and find out, like, how do we get this done?
Yeah, they can call me directly on my cell phone. They can go to our website, www.practiceplan.io. They can go on our Instagram account. We have a Facebook account, LinkedIn as well, very heavy presence on LinkedIn. And there's also a help button on our site that they can click that will send an email to our development team, and we'll get back to them same day.
Excellent. And I will say that you guys have been extremely responsive. So, I mean, within 24 hours, I've always gotten a contact back, or people I've referred have gotten instant access. So that's huge when you're providing service, as you well know, especially to K-12, right? They want answers now and they want to know why as fast as possible. Well, man, John, thank you for being on the show. I mean, yeah, I mean, you know how superintendents are. Like they want to know why quickly, right? Fix it fast. So it was a pleasure. It was a pleasure having you back on, and I'm going to encourage all my friends that are out there struggling with their budgets to take a look at PracticePlan and give John a shout. And man, this is a great opportunity for a win and to help monetize and offset some of the burden that you're all facing. And I'm not getting paid for this. There's no promises. It's just, hey, I'm want to spread some good opportunity and some good news and really help you guys find some resources until we get the lay of the land with finance. So, John, thank you so much for being a part of the path forward.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate your support, and I'm real excited about where we're going with this.
Excellent. And if you like what you heard, please click that subscribe, hit the bell. You know what to do. We'll also put links down in the description. So if you want to contact PracticePlan, just pop on down the description and hit the address. Thanks for being a part of the path forward.
Produced by Podcast Architects.